Hello everyone, I'm Akash Armugam. I'm a science communicator and a neuroscience student, and today we have a guest with us. And this is my first podcast with a person who is deal with a great engineering problem. But at the same time, this is a very new topic, and people much not talk about in this. Before we start, I just want to welcome a guest, Mr. Calvin Barrows. Welcome to the show. So, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Oh, great. So I want to tell my experience to begin before we start the question. The first time I traveling on the London metro, I was aware of the heat thing, but because I was new to this country, so when I was starting here, I faced two problems as a main thing. First one is the height of the train, which is I'm 6.1 or 6.2 or something. So this is the size of the train top roof and my head. So it's kind of a funny thing, but the main issue we are going to talk about why the London Underground is so hot. It's a big question. Everybody knows about it, but nobody knows why it's happening and what are all the functions behind it. So we are going to get all of these answers and a different perspective from Mr. Calvin Barrows, who is a chartered engineer and retired now, and also has a background in forex engineering, which you deal with the structural fails and manufacturing things, and you become manager at TfL. So long journey, and you worked on different things. I just want to start with the questions. So why the London Underground is so hot?
Well, the conventional answer is brakes, traction, auxiliary heating, like passengers, like lighting, etc., and the exhaust from air conditioning. Well, first of all, the air conditioning you can take out of the equation because it's been hot for years, and air conditioning has not been around on the tube for till quite recently. So I looked at this and I thought, well, and there was a lot going on. Ken Livingstone was the mayor at the time, and there was a competition. And just after the competition finished, I was travelling home on the Central Line between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. And I was sitting opposite a gentleman who was rather large, but he looked like he was having real trouble with the heat.
Okay.
And I looked around the train and I thought, well, it's not the passengers, because I was now past Loughton and all the passengers had got off, or most of the passengers had got off at Leytonstone and Leyton. So there were only 6 passengers in the train. And then I realised something which I'm not going to give away at the moment, and I started monitoring the tube with a small digital thermometer, and I discovered that what TfL was saying was not true. TfL was saying it gains all its heat in the tunnel because of the brakes, and I found that it was gaining all of its heat on the surface.
Right. So when you say TfL, the Transport for London, what explanation they given that doesn't really, accepted your analogy and what it is?
Well, they give an explanation about the various operational heat sources, but they don't actually explain what they mean,
Okay.
and they don't explain how operational heat source, which is sending out the same heat in January as it's sending out in July. It doesn't actually match the profile we're looking at, which is the seasonal. So, for example, on the Elizabeth line now, they've found that tunnel temperatures vary by about 11 degrees between summer and winter, because they've been doing some monitoring on that. TfL, as London Underground, used to do monitoring, but they never put the figures in a graph. And as soon as you put the figures in the graph goes like that: summer, winter, summer, winter, summer,
Is
winter.
it something like heart rhythms? Heart rate,
Yeah,
can we compare with that?
So it's high in the summer and it's low in the winter.
Right. You said there is a specific journey that you sit nearby a man who is struggling with the heat. You experienced your journey. Was there a moment? What's your first thought when you see? Did you get curious about the heat because you are working in a field where, for the engineering background, or working in railways, but a common person like me, when I'm traveling to the tubes, it will be I will be curious why the heat, and people really don't know why it is. So we have two answers. We have TfL explanation, and also you have your own theory. What made you think when you realized there was a heat in the tube?
I think that the point that I'd already been thinking about was there were so many contradictions in everything TfL are saying.
Okay.
So you can't possibly see how all these operational heats will give you a seasonal response. And so you should be looking for a heat source that's separate from the operational heats that gives you a seasonal response.
So what was your first working theory when you?
Well,
I mean, the initial part
I'm
when
going to
you
give
started.
the game away here because I can't answer that question without giving the game away. And that was that I was watching this guy and I was sitting there myself and thinking, and I was sitting away from the seat because my back was sweating.
Okay.
And I suddenly sat back and I went, there's that yellow thing in the sky there. And that yellow thing in the sky is the thing that makes my car react seasonally.
So you was literally seeing the yellow thing outside.
I was seeing the sun.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, that's what makes my car hot in the summer. So let me give you an example. You've driven your car into the middle of a field.
Okay.
And you'll see the reason I'm saying the middle of a field a little later on.
Right.
And you stop the car and you sit there for a while and you make sure all your windows are closed.
Okay.
So the car engine isn't running, so the car heater isn't running. The sun is very weak because it's winter. It may be
Minus 10 degrees.
no heat at all. And the air temperature is minus 10 degrees. So there are no other heat sources
Okay.
other than you and your four mates' bodies sitting in that car,
Right.
each at about 100 watts. Would that be enough to heat your car when it's minus 10 degrees outside?
No, the 5 mates heat, I don't think it will really help us in that to make a great heat because it's minus 10 degrees outside. So I don't think.
There'll be too much heat loss.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you sit in your car
Okay.
on your own in the middle of a field with the engine not running
Okay.
and the windows closed
Right.
on a summer day when it's 35 degrees outside.
Okay.
What will happen?
I feel heat that will be so hotter inside.
How much heat?
Probably it's 35-degree outside. So might be I feel more because I'm in a closed surface. The windows are opened.
No, the windows are closed.
The windows are closed. So this might create a high
Okay.
heat because the car might absorb some heat.
Okay,
And-
shall I tell you the simple answer?
Yeah.
You'd probably get heat stroke.
Okay.
If you stayed in long enough, you'd probably die.
Yes. That makes sense actually.
Okay. So what's the heat source? You haven't got the engine on. You haven't got the heater on. What's the heat source?
The sunlight,
Yes.
the first source I
Yeah.
am considering, because it directly comes to that
Yeah.
solid
Now,
part.
you've raised an interesting point here,
Right.
because most people think when it's hot, they are hot because the air's hot. Okay. So let's disabuse them of that. Right. So here is a line,
Okay.
and if I stand there, I'm in the shade. If I stand there, I'm in the sun.
Okay.
Okay. What's the difference in the air? And when I'm in the sun, I feel warm.
Okay.
And when I'm in the shade, I feel cool.
Yes.
So it's like you go on a walk and you suddenly the clouds come over and no sun, and you go, oh, I wish I'd have put my jumper on. And then when you come out of the shade or the clouds move, you go, oh, actually, I don't need my jumper now. So what is the difference between the air temperature in the sun and the air temperature in the shade?
Okay. That's a good question. So difference between air temperature in the sun and the shade.
Yes.
I think that definitely there would be a difference.
You think there'll be a difference?
I'm not sure, but still, but difference it's different temperature, because sun has some hotter temperature and shade has a different temperature. But I'm not sure.
Because you feel warmer in the shade, in the sun rather, you think that the air in the sunshine side is hotter than the air in the shade
Okay.
side. That's what you think.
Yes.
But it's clearly wrong, because the air is moving around and it's mixing,
Yes.
and it can't possibly be different. So why do you feel hot in the sun and not in the shade? Because you're being solar irradiated.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that solar irradiation does not heat air.
Okay.
Solar irradiation heats solid objects. So you and I are a solid object.
Yes.
So what happens is the energy in the sun is not heat, because it's come through several cold atmospheres before it gets here. It's light.
Yes.
The photons of light have energy,
Yes.
and that energy works on the electrons in your body, and the electrons start to excite,
Yeah.
and it's the electrons moving around that makes you warm. And that happens also in a solid material, which is why if you left a sheet of steel on your back lawn and went out there after the sun had been shining on it, you wouldn't be able to sit on it, because it would
Yes.
be too hot.
Yes. Definitely.
That's why you don't sit down on concrete paving or stone paving when the sun's been shining on it. The only thing that you can walk on with bare feet, you can't walk on a beach with bare feet when the sun's been shining on it, because you'll burn the bottoms of your feet.
Yes.
You can't slide down a child's slide, otherwise you'll burn your bottom. But what you can do is walk on grass with bare feet, because grass reacts completely differently, which is why you have heat islands in the middle of a city and you don't have heat islands in the middle of the country.
Right. So it's very interesting when you say about the grass. So what exactly the grass is doing in that particular time?
It's got moisture in it,
Moisture. Okay.
and it's like trees, they transpire, transpiration.
Exactly.
So there's a completely different environment around it.
Right.
And that actually brings in a potential solution to overheating trains, but we'll talk about that later.
Right. So I think I can go the kind of if I go back to, if we start talking about the London Underground, we should also go from the history. We should start from the history. So we know the London Underground started in 1863 by I have some of the people, the solicitor Charles Pearson, who postulated the idea, and an engineer called John Flower brought it into practical implications, and then they started in 1863. But the tube, when you're talking about the tube, it's 1890. A person called James Henry Grather, who started this. He used the iron ring, which we use in the tunnels, to start the first London tube, which is for the city South London. They started it. But the only thing I noticed when I'm reading about the history, they actually marketed the tube as, is it cold down when they're starting it? Is it very cold because in the underground? But it's been 130 years. The heat drastically changes and increased now, and it potentially change in the future. I'm predicting it will be increasing. So, what do you think about the engineers who have built that time? What they missed it?
Right. Well, when they first built the tube, it was cooler below. And there was a reason for that. And then they thought, and I've given the game away, that
Okay.
it's the sun.
Okay.
The reason for it being cooler below is like every other metro that is only underground. The tube, when it was first built, was only underground. And then they decided that it would be a good idea to extend it out to the suburbs and develop the suburbs. So they've obviously only put it underground because that's the expensive way of doing it when it needed to be underground in London, but it didn't need to be underground in the suburbs. So they took the seemingly logical step to put it on the surface. But now it's overheating because the trains are travelling under the sun on the surface. And the solar gain is heating up the trains, and then the trains move into the tunnels hot,
Right.
and they radiate their heat into the tunnels and make the tunnels hot.
Right.
So air conditioning of the saloon is not going to solve the problem, because the only thing air conditioning does to benefit is make the the saloon of the train cooler. The problem is that in order to make it cooler, it's got to draw heat in, air in from the tunnel, which, because the externals of the train are heating the tunnel air, the air is getting hot. So it's drawing in hot air, but it's also sending out even hotter air or more hot air into the tunnel with the exhaust from the air conditioning. So what they found in the New York subway
Okay.
is that the air conditioning keeps going wrong because it's overwhelmed by the amount of heat that's coming in from the tunnel, and it's trying to send heat out into an environment that's so hot already that it can't get rid of it.
Right. And also the underground they built in the 130 years back when they started building it. It is originally built for steam trains.
Yes.
And I never traveled in steam trains. Have you?
Years ago.
Oh, right. I've only seen on the TV shows and movies, but I really like because it has a smoke. Really good. Well, so they never thought about the electric trains at the time before the tube coming. So my question is, why didn't they predicted that this might happen in the future when they started building it?
If they can't understand it now, I don't think the engineers at that time, when they hadn't even tried it out, would have realised that that was a problem.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But the other thing you need to bear in mind is that steam trains were only used in the subsurface railways. Do you understand what I mean by that?
No, could you explain it what
No.
this means by
Basically, it's a cut and cover. So they go down the road and they dig the road up,
Okay.
and they dig a trench, and they create a base and sides, and then they put the road on the top.
That's what made the cutting down.
So it's not proper tunnelling.
Right.
And what they did then was leave gaps between buildings. So when you go on things like the district line, you'll go into what looks like a tunnel, but it's not a circular tunnel rings. It's basically like a car tunnel. And you go through and then suddenly you get into the light because they had areas which vented it and allowed the smoke to go up.
Right. It's interesting.
But then they came along and did the deep tube, which is in circular tunnels, tunnel rings,
Line rings. Yeah.
and sometimes concrete, sometimes steel. But they never ran steam trains in there. There wasn't enough room.
Why is the tube hotter in the summer? Let's go back to the question. And there is a lot of explanations behind it. So first we have to go with the TfL explanation, Transport for London. What are the main explanation they are giving for the reasons why the London tube is hotter?
Well, their main explanation, and that's the accepted one with all railway engineers, is operational heat. So I've just done a paper, and I'm going to apologise for
That's completely
looking
all
at
right.
it,
That's completely all right. You can
because there are a lot of steps to this, and if I miss out a step, it will be
I can
confusing.
understand it.
So this is not just about tube trains. This is about trains that stall on the surface, that run on the surface most of the time or all of the time. So at the end of at the end of June,
Okay.
there were 4 incidents worldwide of trains stalling on either surface track or within tunnels when they'd been on surface track for a long time. So, for example, the Channel Tunnel, they come miles on the surface and then they go into the Channel Tunnel, and they are very hot because they've been solar irradiated for miles and miles and miles through several countries,
Right.
and they take that heat in the tunnel. And obviously, like cars always used to overheat years ago, and they still do a bit, and everything suffers when it gets too hot, and that can create faults, expansion and things like that. So actually, in one particular case, the Eurotunnel example, they did say the reason the train stalled in the tunnel was because it was suffering from overheating from its trip on the surface.
Oh.
So I thought, this needs another paper. So I've written this other paper with the help of my co-author called Claude.
Great. So when was the time when you write this paper?
When did I write it?
Yeah.
Over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And the test, basically I said, we have to have a test that says, do these heat sources work to create seasonal outputs? So the test was 4 things. Is the magnitude enough to create the conditions we observe? Is the timing right to make the conditions we observe? Is the location right to make the conditions we observe? And is it an original source of heat and not a consequence of the original source of heat? So I then looked at the various heat sources. So bearing in mind, these trains had stalled. They'd been there for, one stalled case was 2 hours. Another stalled case was 5 hours. The highest temperature that one of the trains got to was 50 degrees internally.
Internally.
50 degrees C. And so they're there for, let's say, half an hour, by which time they've got very hot and they're getting hotter. So the reason they stalled was because they ran out of power.
Okay.
So there was no heat from traction because the trains have been sitting there without the traction motors running because they couldn't run. There's no heat from braking because they've been sitting there for some time and they hadn't had to stop because they were already stopped.
Okay.
You might say, well, the air conditioning might be working. No, the air conditioning couldn't have been working because there was no power. And the ancillary systems and the lighting and the electronics, etc.,
The auxiliary equipment.
had no power. So the only thing that we've got left is the passengers, and we've already established that passengers is not a great deal of heat.
Yes, by the car analogy.
By the car analogy.
Yeah.
So we get to the stage where we said all of these operational heats do not answer the question. They do not produce a heat that we observe, which is seasonal. So my graph I was saying about, which is the graph of TfL's own measurements. So we have to widen the search.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at groundwater. Groundwater's happening in a mass of soil.
Yeah.
So if the groundwater's hot, it would have to heat the mass of soil.
Yes.
It doesn't spontaneously get hot, groundwater. There's nothing to make it spontaneously get hot. In fact, groundwater is fairly cool most of the time. If you go into a tunnel, into a cave rather,
Okay.
you'd feel cold because
Right.
groundwater doesn't get hot. Now, these often happen, these stalling cases, in a rural setting. And they still overheat.
Right.
So there's no heat island, because heat islands only happen in the cities. Because heat islands is the case of all the solid objects absorbing the heat. Whereas, as we just discussed, that you can walk on grass because it transpirates, and trees transpirate. So if you're not in the city, you're out in the country, you're not going to get an urban heat island, but the trains are still overheating.
Right.
Climate change, that's an interesting one. Everyone
Yes,
goes,
it's a big factor.
well, that's a big power of heat in climate change.
True.
Climate change, you realise, is predicted to rise 2 degrees a century.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is 0.02 degrees a year.
Okay.
Is that seasonal? You'd hardly notice it.
Yes.
Okay? So then we have ambient air. The problem with ambient air does follow the seasonal, but the problem with ambient air is it's not an original source. The reason ambient air gets hotter is because it's taking its heat from hot surfaces, which we've already established are being heated by the radiant heat from the sun, or the radiant effect of the sun, shall we say, because the radiant heat of the effect of the sun is the photons of light
Yeah.
giving energy to the solid object. So, in my book, the only thing it leaves is solar gain,
Oh,
unless you can think of anything else.
right. So, what might be the conventional explanations that
The accepted
yes,
explanation.
accepted explanations like
Yeah.
the braking, attractions, auxiliary equipments,
Yeah.
passengers,
Yeah.
and the braking is kind of interesting because when they brake, it creates heat, but when coming to seasonality, compared to seasonality, as you mentioned, it's coming.
It doesn't create any more heat in the summer than in the winter.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's the questions. Because the major point that about your theory, that when coming to, it makes sense when we compare with the seasonality, because it's not the same at the January and July.
Yeah.
Yeah, in summer it's getting more increased heat, so there might be other source of heat, as you mentioned. But this kind of so coming to our coming follow-up questions about the TfL. So did you approach TfL about these things?
Yes.
So what's the response to that?
They just didn't engage with me.
Okay.
So the point I would make about this is I have just explained thermodynamic rules
Yes.
or thermodynamic behavior.
The first law of thermodynamics.
Now, you didn't really understand it,
Hmm.
and that's nothing, you haven't had to understand it. 95% or more people will not understand it. Because when you did your science at school, they said there are 3 ways that heat transfers: conduction, convection, and radiation.
Yeah, the three of them.
Okay? So, did they explain conduction to you?
Oh yes, in a different way.
Right. Did they explain convection to you?
Yeah,
Did they explain radiation to you?
yeah.
How did they explain that?
From the sunlight, the
It's like the
electromagnetic
sun.
waves. Yeah,
It's exactly the same as it was explained to me several years before you.
right.
That doesn't tell you anything. So, actually, without radiation, this world will be cold.
Yeah,
And actually, you can heat a bit of steel with a fire, or you can heat it with electric. But that is not an original source. You can heat a bit of steel by leaving it on your back lawn
yeah.
and letting the sun shine on it. But the steel, the conduction, is not an original source. It's a consequence of electromagnetic radiation. And conduction, so there's a very good example a physicist told me, because I said, how do I tell the difference? And this is in the early days, and I've got an understanding of it now, but, my wife was helping me with the grammar and everything, and also she was asking what she calls naive questions because she couldn't make sense of what I was writing. So I said, how do I tell whether the heat is conduction, convection, or radiation?
What's the best way to explain?
So he came up with this example that if you have a bonfire on bonfire night and you walk up to it and you feel the heat. Now, you only feel the heat on the side that's facing the fire. Is that true? You've never tried it, okay? It's true. You only find the heat on the side that's facing the fire. It's not conduction because you're not touching it. It's not convection because you're out in the open and all the heat is going straight up in the air. So the only thing it can be is radiation.
Right. So
So now if you put that fire, it's a wood-burning stove, you say, well, again, I'm not touching it. Now, some of the heat is going up the chimney, but some of it's coming out the top and convecting. But most of it is radiating. But you can actually feel the heat all around you.
yes, because heat is all around us.
It's not the air temperature,
Yeah.
it's the heat coming off the wall that has seen the fire and been irradiated by it. Okay? So I'll explain something more here about houses. If you read a newspaper article, and this is relevant to what I'm saying
Right.
about trains. If you read a newspaper article, they always say to you, in order to keep your house cool in summer, you need to draw the blinds and close the windows.
Yeah.
So you stop the heat coming in. Well, actually, the building regulations say you need cross ventilation because the air temperature is always the coldest thing.
Mm.
So you want the air to come in because it's cooler than anything else that's going on. So, first of all, your house only faces the sun for a quarter of the day.
Mm.
And on one side, it doesn't face the sun at all. So on the east side, it doesn't get full sun. On the south side, it gets full sun. And on the southwest side, it gets a bit more sun than the east side. But that doesn't explain why the loft gets hot.
Mm.
Have you ever put your head up in a loft on a summer's day?
From where exactly?
And through a loft door in your house, you've got a
Yes.
roof space.
Yes.
Have you ever been in a roof space on a summer's day?
I didn't remember when I were there in the summer days, but I feel like I have experienced the heat in those places.
So a loft can reach ridiculous temperatures. You can only work in there on a summer's day for about 15 minutes. Otherwise, you'll pass out.
Hmm.
And people say, well, the loft is getting hot because heat rises. And I'm
Yes.
going, no. Your first floor, where your bedrooms are, is only at 30 degrees. The loft is at 60 degrees. You can't make 30 degrees rise and become 60 degrees.
Okay.
So it must be coming in some other way. And the way it's coming in is because the roof is seeing the sun all day.
Hmm. And when we think about the house system, I'm also getting getting a word of insulation. What if we used the insulation or different kind of insulation materials? Is it really help us from the heat that's come?
That's a really good question because radiation passes through solid objects.
Yes.
So the only thing that will stop a radiation heat
Mhm.
is aluminium foil, but a special aluminium foil because it disturbs the electrical signals.
Okay.
But no, insulation actually makes things worse because the heat gets through and then it can't get out again
Yeah.
because it's trying to get out as a different sort of heat. So what's happening is the sun is shining on the roof. The roof is obviously generally in this country dark.
Hmm.
So the dark tiles absorb the radiation very efficiently. The tiles then conduct through to the underside of the tile, and then that radiates into the loft space, and then the loft space heats the ceiling, and then it conducts down the walls. So your first floor rooms will be hotter than your ground floor rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I say hotter, not air temperature, but because the walls and the ceiling are hot. So an example of this, you go home after a hard day at the office and you walk in your house and you go, I'm a bit hot and sweaty, I need to change into something cooler. So you go upstairs and walk into your bedroom and it's like a wall of heat hits you. What's the first thing you do?
Once I reach the home,
Sorry?
once I reach the home,
When you walked into the bedroom, what's the first thing you do to try and cool it down?
opening the windows.
Absolutely. So why would you keep the windows closed all day
especially in the summertime.
to try
I can
to stop the heat getting in,
Yes,
because you open the windows at night to let the heat out.
right.
But if you don't have the windows open all day, there won't be as much heat in there, because that will be ventilated. Ventilation is not air conditioning, by the way. Ventilation is a very poor way of cooling something,
Right.
because the air is not a dense material. Its molecules are too far apart to absorb heat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about a kettle, you boil it up for 2 minutes, and you take a cup of tea, enough for a cup of tea out of it, and then you leave it sitting on the kitchen counter, and it's surrounded by air. How long does it take to cool down?
Maybe 20 minutes, just guessing.
More like 40. Back down to room temperature, that is. It cools down quite a bit in 20 minutes, but
The starting might be 20 minutes, but the actual
it's not
thing-
got to room temperature.
Yeah.
To get down to room temperature where your starting point was, it's 2 minutes up, 40 minutes down.
That makes sense. So
Okay.
when you talk
So all I'm saying is
right,
the reason you open the windows and then you go, right, I'm going to go down for a spot of tea and I watch a bit of telly. And halfway through the evening, you go, there was something I wanted in my room. So I go upstairs and I walk in and it's cold.
oh,
Have you experienced that?
I mean, are you telling about the roof or
So
the
you've
upstairs?
opened the windows and you've let all the cold air in,
Yes,
because the night air is colder.
yes,
Right, so you walk in the room and it's cold. And you go, oh, I've overdone it. So what do you do? Close the windows.
yeah.
And you go down, you finish your evening, and you go back upstairs again, and it's hot again. Why is that? Because you've let a wedge of air in that's enough to fill the room, which is cold, and when you shut it, the walls and the ceiling and the floor radiate heat out and warm that air up again. So you've lost a bit from the walls because it's been used to heat the air, but you haven't lost enough to make your room cool.
Ah.
And so there were some blogs I was reading about this. It said, I've lived in Florida all my life, and every house I've been in, or condominium, whatever, I've looked at the temperature outside, and it's cold, but the air conditioning was coming on.
Oh, that's strange.
And why is that? And it's exactly the same as I said to you when I first met you at the Science Centre.
Yes.
The sun was shining through the glass. It didn't matter that it was air conditioned. It was heating the countertop
Yes.
because it was the light that was heating it with the energy and the photons of light. And so what he was finding was that the light was coming through and telling the sensor inside it's hot outside. Sorry, it's hot outside. And it wasn't actually hot outside
Okay.
because it was just taking the light as energy. Sarah Keith Lucas, the weather forecaster, said, it's going to be a really muggy night tonight.
Okay.
It's going to be 18 degrees outside.
Right.
And I thought, 18 degrees? If I had a bedroom that was 18 degrees, I'd probably be fairly happy.
It's pretty good, actually.
Okay. So why would 18 degrees give you a muggy night? Because the heat's already contained in the building. If I was to take my bed outside and put it on the lawn at 18 degrees, apart from being bitten by the mosquitoes, I'd be fairly happy. Because if you notice that on a hot night, you've had a hot day and you're feeling hot inside, But if you walk outside, you're feeling cool.
Yes.
Because it's not the
yes.
air temperature that's keeping you warm. It's the radiation from the structure that's occurred because the sun has been on the roof and the walls all day.
Actually, it's pretty interesting. I'm doing this every day because of now it's a summer time. Because once if I went to the university and I came back to home in the evening and it's been a hot day, at the night time I cannot even have a good sleep. So what I will do is in the 9, 10, the 11 p.m. I will get outside and have a walk. And I feel better, bizarre, and getting that all windy and go back to bed. Then I feel a less heat. Still, there will be heat in my room, but I feel better than say go for a walk. And it's really making sense when you're.
You sort of cooled your body down, but if you took an infrared thermometer, which I have done, fired it at my wall, and found the wall temperatures like 27 to 30 degrees after a hot sunny day.
Right.
And I didn't even bother to go in the loft because I knew what would happen there.
Right. So let's go back to the things you mentioned about the test: magnitude, location, source, and also timing is important. So in these four things, that one thing that really surprises you in a way, what do you pick in these four things? Like really make you fascinating. Oh, that's really strange, something like that.
I don't think there was anything, because if you think about magnitude, that's fairly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about location, well, I knew by that time
where it is happening.
There was 180 metros in this world,
mm-hmm.
and there's only 10 that go underground only.
In the whole world?
In the whole world.
I don't know this fact. Right.
No, all the others are mixed. And the point about that is that you've got to be careful how you define it. There's overheating and there's structural overheating. So if you just walk down the road from your flat
mm-hmm.
to the station,
mm-hmm.
you've been in a hot country, certainly. You've been warmed by the ambient temperatures, be it the radiation or the air temperature. Or you could say you've been a bit late and you've had a run,
mm-hmm.
so you've raised your temperature.
Yeah.
And then you get into an air-conditioned train and you thought, I still feel hot. And you still feel hot because, like, if you go out for a run, you don't immediately feel cold when you go into an air-conditioned room because you're still generating enough heat. It's a bit like contractors working outside in the winter in T-shirts because they're producing so much energy that they're heating themselves and keeping themselves warm even though it's freezing cold outside. But the other thing is structural overheating. And the structural overheating is where the radiant heat heats the train and the train radiates heat to the tunnel. So I call that primary and secondary radiation. And the radiation is different because radiation can be light or it can be heat.
Yes.
So infrared or light. So you get shortwave radiation from the sun, and then you get long wave radiation from a heated surface. So that brings me to another point, that a lot of the railway organisations think that they can solve the problem. So one of my solutions in the early days was solar reflective paint.
Reflective paint.
Now, the point with solar reflective paint is you are not reflecting heat.
Right.
So you're not increasing the heat in the world. You're reflecting light. And reflecting light means that then the light hasn't reached the surface to vibrate the molecules and cause heat in the surface.
So the light doesn't get through the paint? if we use reflective?
No, it doesn't get through that paint. It gets
Right.
through ordinary paint, but it doesn't get through. In fact, there is what they call the whitest of white paint, which is 95% reflective.
Okay.
So if you're reflecting 98% of the light, then you're only using 2% to create heat, which is negligible.
Right. So there's a solution on this. I never
Yeah.
know this as well.
Yeah, so that's solar reflective paint. But now there's something that they call passive daytime radiative cooling. And it's sort of being worked out from desert cooling, where they actually end up with frozen water in these desert coolers. And then they have ice buildings to keep it in. Because the desert is very cold at night. So they use the coldness of the desert to cool the water, and then they store it in an ice building, and that is passive radiative cooling.
VDRC.
But they've actually worked out how to do it within the daytime. So it's two components, basically. I don't understand the science of it particularly,
Okay.
and I don't need to. But it's solar reflective paint and then another coating which actually helps the material emit at a wavelength that allows it to go through what they call the atmospheric window and go into outer space. And if you've got those two components together in a material, the material, even with the sun shining on it, can be 5 degrees less than ambient air temperature.
Right.
So if you think about that, if you were trying to put in a train in which was 5 degrees less, and there was any heat in the tunnel, which is unlikely to be because you've already stopped it going in, it will take that heat out because heat goes to cold. So there's the delta T between the air temperature and the train temperature, which then takes the heat in and carries it out. So
That's really
the point
interesting.
we're trying to get to is if air is a bad conductor, and this is what TfL keeps saying, well, we're doing some more ventilation. As I said, ventilation won't do it. If you take the kettle example, because air is a bad conductor of heat.
Yeah.
But metal is a very good conductor of heat.
Yes.
So you carry it in with metal, which brings a fantastically big load in, and then you try and take it out with air, which is totally incapable of taking that sort of magnitude out of the tunnel.
Right. So when you talk about the ventilation, I getting another idea about doing the ventilation shafts, building in the underground. So why can't we do that?
Well, ventilation won't work. So ventilation is for ventilation. Ventilation is to make sure you've got enough oxygen in the air
Yeah.
to keep the passengers alive. It's not for cooling.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking about the passenger safety in a way of...
Yeah, but you've got to stop the thing getting hot before. So the whole concept that I've developed is stop the heat going in the first place. Because once you let the heat in, it's a bit like, and you won't remember this, but before air conditioning came out in cars, the thing I tried to do was to keep it in the shade. Because as soon as it got hot, you had trouble cooling it down. You did better to try and stop it getting hot in the first place, which was pretty impossible anyway. But at least I tried.
Yes.
So it's the same with the train. You stop it getting hot by passive daytime radiative cooling, and then you haven't got all the heat in the tunnel to take it out. Now, one other aspect that we haven't discussed. So, yes, I did start on that. The railway organisations think that you only have to deal with the roof, the windows and the sides of the train. Now, bearing in mind what you know about the amount of heat that a solid lump of metal will take in, it has a great capacity to absorb heat.
Yes.
So what about wheels? Do you think they'd have a great capacity? Train
Yes.
wheels.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't take that into consideration. So actually, I think that the biggest problem with heating the tunnels is not so much the train body itself, because that has not got a great deal of mass in, but the undercarriage and all the components in the undercarriage have a great deal of mass in. So the reason they think it's the brakes
Brakes. Yes.
is because the brakes get hot. But actually, the brakes don't get hot because of usage, because they coast most of the time now. The brakes get hot because they're in a hot environment. So you think about sitting on a concrete patio when the sun's been shining on it. You wouldn't do it. It'll be too hot. A track bed is made of the same material as a patio, similar material. It's stone. And so if the track bed gets hot, that then radiates upwards. Now we're talking about long wave radiation, because the sun has got it hot by operating with short wave radiation. But now it's hot, it's letting off long wave radiation, which is heating the undercarriage and the underside of the train. So the undercarriage is being attacked in two directions, one from the outside with the direct sunlight and one from the track bed and rails. And, you know, the rail industry do understand solar gain, but they haven't actually put two and two together and said, if it affects the rails, it can affect the train. So how do you deal with the track? Right. So you could say, I'm going to coat the underside of the train with solar reflective materials, but that will get dirty and it would require a lot of maintenance. And it's awkward as well, because there's maintenance items that you'll spray paint over and then you won't be able to maintain them, etc. But what if you stop the track getting hot? So they've already started by painting the non-wearing surface of the rails white.
The reflective paint you said.
Yeah, but they're not painting it with solar reflective paint.
Right.
Why paint it with standard paint when you've got solar reflective paint?
Right.
It's ridiculous, because you can double the effect
Yes.
or more by painting it with solar reflective paint. You obviously can't do the wearing surfaces because the paint will just wear off. But now you've dealt with the rails as best you can. Now you've got the track bed. Now part of the track bed is the ballast and the other part is the sleepers. So do you think a concrete sleeper would absorb a lot of heat? If a patio will get hot, a concrete sleeper is that thick. It has a great capacity
Of conducting heat.
for absorbing heat.
Absorbing heat.
So does the ballast. Okay, so now you've got to stop it. So first of all, they've developed plastic sleepers. And plastic sleepers will absorb a lot less, and particularly if you make it in the right colour. I mean, if you put black plastic on the children's playground, you will notice that it gets quite hot. But if you put white plastic there, it wouldn't get anywhere near as hot as black plastic, and it wouldn't get anywhere near as hot in the sunshine as concrete. So that'll be a good answer. And actually, there are problems with concrete sleepers that you can get over as well.
Oh.
Because concrete sleepers slide on the ballast and act like a file and end up creating a slurry, which is why you had gauge corner cracking, where as trains went around a bend, it would slide and it would slide and it would slide and eventually stress the rails in the wrong way. But then what you do, bearing in mind what I said earlier on, the only thing you can walk on when it's had the sun is grass. That wasn't quite true. You can work on vegetation. So the vegetation you grow on tracks is called green track, and it's sedum and the like.
Right.
Now, sedum doesn't need much water, doesn't need much maintenance. It sort of grows flat.
Yeah.
So now you've covered it with something that will have transpiration and stop the heat getting to the track bed. Now you don't have to deal with the underside of the train because there's nothing radiating up to speak of.
Yes. So when you're talking about the wheels, the train wheels, you said that absorbs the heat
Yeah.
because it's a solid object. Of course, it will. But also the classical explanations of the braking, when they had a brake, it will create some energy motion. It's create a kinetic energy and it will turn to heat. Which do you think has more effect? I mean, which do you think the more heat will be?
They keep saying, I haven't done very many figures to come out with this hypothesis. I'm just looking at the contradictions. And the contradictions are they've been proffering the idea of coasting. And in fact, on the Elizabeth line,
Okay.
they've put humps at the stations. So they don't have to brake very much because they go uphill as they go into the station. And then they go downhill to get the train running so they don't have to run the traction motors so heavily to get it going. So my contention is, in all of these things, TfL need to do the test because they haven't done the tests that I have been suggesting. Like, for example, the simple test of putting data loggers in a saloon and seeing when the most heat is created in that saloon, in which case they would find that it's on the surface, as I found.
Right.
I can't falsify that. And if they ask me to come and prove it to them, I'd just get in a train with a thermometer and say, look, what I said is right, because it's happening today.
But they never try to reach out to make a
They never tried to reach out. So, yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you're promoting coasting of a train so that you don't have to use the brakes as often, then it's obvious the reason for the brakes getting hot is because it's in a hot environment. It's being heated because the wheels have been heated from direct sunlight. It's been heated from the track bed and the sleepers because they are, as the train moves along over the track bed, it's constantly having a renewed section that's just been recently solarly irradiated, like 2 microseconds before the train goes over it.
That's interesting. I have a quick question, so and reminding, which is when I first traveled the Victorian line, London Underground, some first metro, I was feel like my ears are closed. I didn't know. Do you know why my air dams are closing? Like it's because of pressure. It's completely blank. I didn't hear anything. I can see the difference. How my air getting slowly like a close, like how it will feel in the winter, like it will be closed, something like that I felt in the train.
Are you talking about air pressure?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So
I don't know when that was, but they put more ventilation shafts in now, which obviously allows a better flow of air. But
I can really see the
air's
difference.
not going to
pressure.
move. The air's not going to move. There's going to be some resistance to the air moving.
Yeah.
And it depends on which way they've got the fans blowing as well. The idea is for the fans to draw air through and send it out before the train comes along, because you've got the piston effect as well. So you don't want to fight the piston effect. I don't know how sophisticated their control systems are, but if one is fighting against the other, you will get imbalances of air pressure.
And also, when you talk about the ventilation shafts, I think it's very hard to put in now because it's directly connecting the road's main central area. So we have to tear up and clear everything, and which is expensive and practically impossible now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to bring an air. You've got to find out where your tunnel coordinates with the site that you can develop to make an outlet for the air.
Yeah.
But you raise the Victoria line. We haven't actually discussed about that. People get a little bit confused about underground-only lines and underground-only networks.
Oh.
Now, everyone's saying, well, the Victoria line's very hot, and that's underground only. And I'm going, no, that's not the point. The point is, first of all, that at Northumberland Park, they stable all the trains overground. Now, even if they stable the trains in a building, the building gets hot, and therefore the trains, like you in your house, get hot. Maybe not as much as they would be stabled overground. But if you want to stable them overground, what you need to do is have open side roofs. So not a train shed, but in effect a canopy with open sides so you get airflow through. So you stop the sun hitting the train, and you obviously need to think about the line of sight of the sun so that the trains don't get right up against the edge and get their sides hit by solar irradiation. But also, I think it's the second law of thermodynamics, simply explained, is heat will go to cold, but you have to apply energy for cold to go to heat.
Yes.
So the energy you have to apply for cold to go to heat is air conditioning. So if all the other lines go overground, they get hot. And all the lines that are adjoined to the Victoria line will also get hot, because the heat will go through the adits from one line to the other.
Is it because of the network?
Sorry?
Is it because of the network is connected to the Victorian line?
Network. All the other lines that join with the Victoria line will actually send their heat, because the Victoria line will be cooler.
Right.
Because it hasn't been outside for as long. So when I say underground only, I mean underground only networks. Like, so in Warsaw, I think they have 3 lines, and they are all underground.
Yes.
Unfortunately, because no one's hearing my message, they're going to build some lines that are going to be overground, and they're going to regret it, because now they have a system that's not all underground. They have a network that's not all underground, and they will suffer the same fate as London Underground suffered when they decided to extend their lines out to the suburbs. I will say that I don't think anyone else has worked out why it was cooler below. They've known it for years, but they haven't worked out why.
Okay. We almost covered the theoretical aspects, even though if it is mathematically possible. Let's talk about the observational data. What are the observational data monitor you did and find like any difference, like a valid point? Okay, we got a valid data by the monitoring. If you have any experience with your
right,
finding. So you do have mentioned the central line
when I
story?
say I was a forensic engineer,
Mm-hmm.
I worked for a long time on ancient monuments.
Right.
And what we used to do was monitor the cracks
Mm.
and monitor the out of level and things like that. So we had in effect, a laser light that went up to a target, and we could tell whether the building was moving this way or that way. And the whole point about it was we were looking for progressive movement.
Mm.
So, like, a building will always move because it's suffering from shrinkage, moisture, temperature, etc. But the problem is that when it carries on moving, eventually the crack gets so big that the building loses its strength. So that's what we called progressive movement.
Mm.
An obvious word, really. So I got used to the idea of thinking, well, what do I have to do to monitor progressive movement?
Mm.
Now, as far as I can see, and I have no proof of this, TfL said, right, we're going to go out with a thermal camera and we're going to take some photographs of that train coming into that station.
Okay.
That's a point in time. That's not going to show progressive movement.
So what it showed, the thermal camera?
Progressive temperature rise.
Yeah.
So what you needed to do was the sort of monitoring I was doing, which was sitting on a train
Mm.
with a thermometer,
Mm.
or even better, have a data logger set up and say, how does the temperature rise and fall on a train journey?
Mm.
And if they'd have done that, they'd have seen what I saw, which was it rises when it's on the surface. So, an example, I was working at Shepherd's Bush Station,
Okay.
because I actually didn't work for TfL, I worked for Tube Lines, so we were the contractors that
Got
did the
it.
works. So I was design manager for Shepherd's Bush refurbishment.
But heavily the designing job for you.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
basically most of my life was spent. It was on site for that particular one, but I was called a design manager. And one day, I left early at 3:00 for a dental appointment,
Okay.
and we weren't at Shepherd's Bush Station because Shepherd's Bush Station was closed because there was so much work going on there. So I walked down to Holland Park, and it was hot. And I got on the platform, and I can remember the figures to this day. I looked at my little digital thermometer, and it says 28 degrees. And I thought, train's not coming for 4 minutes, so I'll keep an eye on this. And this will be the golden opportunity to see what happens. So 28 degrees, it stayed at 28 degrees until the train came along. I got into train, and fairly obviously the train was hotter from the way I understand things are happening.
Okay.
Because like a greenhouse, the train has glass, etc. And even like a house, it has a roof. And so all those heats from outside are radiant heats, which are actually making the inside hotter. Which is why you don't close the windows to stop
Yes.
the heat coming in your house, because it's not coming in that way. Anyway, so I got on the train, and obviously the immediate effect was for the temperature to go up. And it went up a couple of degrees. But then it stabilised. And then a little bit further down the line, lots of people got on because now we're going through central London.
Yes.
And it was standing room only. And all the way through central London, it didn't go up more than 1 degree.
Oh.
Although I was going to Epping, so I ended up coming out the portal at Leighton. And that train only went to Loughton, which is halfway to Epping. And as soon as it came out of the portal, the temperature started to rise. And by the time we were at Loughton, it rose by another 3 degrees. But by that time, there was no passengers to speak of in the train because they've all got out at the end of central London.
Right.
So you can argue all the operational forces, heat sources, are operating in the tunnel in exactly the same way as they're operating outside. You're not using any more traction power to run outside as inside the tunnel, so it wasn't that. You actually might be using more brakes in the tunnel than you use outside, but actually you're creating less heat in the tunnel than you are outside. So that braking doesn't explain it. There's all these contradictions.
Yeah, I can see the contradiction with the different TfL's explanations and yours. Yeah, and also it's worth looking into these ideas. People are, as you mentioned, about the colloquial view of the public is higher. So the scientific evidence-based talks like this, and the ideas, the different aspects with scientific idea, just not splitting the opinions. That people like you worked on this for several years and giving this option. So the point of doing this to make them aware these all things exist. So you should have a test, practical.
Yeah, I mean, people comment and they go, well, the problem is we haven't got air conditioning. That is what's the word? An opinion. That's an opinion. That's not thought through.
Yeah, it's an hypothesis. Yeah.
Mine's thought through. I've been thinking about this since 2007.
So it's been
my co-author
almost nearly 2 decades.
Yeah, my co-author would say, I don't understand that. And I go, I need to do another Google search. And that's how I found out how the world heats up, which I never knew before. And most people just stop at the science they learned at school, which didn't actually explain radiation.
Yes, because I never knew if you didn't tell me about these systems. So I think that's the right way. I think the audience will get it.
Right, so next time you're in your car, do you drive?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Next time in your car on a hot day, when you open the door and you feel that heat coming in.
From the car?
No, from the outside.
Oh, from the outside.
Right. You'll say it's the hot air. But actually consider it very carefully and you'll realise it's radiation coming off the paving. You can feel the difference.
Yeah.
You can feel where it's coming from.
Right. Is it the waves you're talking about or the radiation?
The radiation's coming off the paving. So the sun has radiated the paving. That, you know how hot roads get because they melt.
Right.
You look at how much heat they need to heat the tarmac up to lay it. And when they're laying it, the steam's coming off it. Well, then the sun comes along and melts it.
And previously we were talking about the lines, the Jubilee, Victoria, different lines, networks. Let's have a quick fact, if people didn't know. Which line is actually more hotter? Is there any precise data for it?
It's a moving target. And I think it's a moving target because they're not doing proper monitoring. It's like I mean, another example, they say, one of the big things is they say it's the clay. You know,
Yes,
the clay has been absorbing heat for 100 years.
yes.
So Cochrane and Burney did some tests on the Victoria line, and they produced a graph. It's not a very good graph,
Okay.
and it's in black and white, so you can't tell which line's which. They didn't sort of put little crosses on one and little circles on another and whatever.
Right.
And I tried to find a better example, but I couldn't find one. Anyway, so I thought, well, this won't do. So I took the graph and I enlarged it. And you could see when you'd enlarged it, which way, when the lines crossed, which line continued from the previous line. So, you know, when it was a small scale, it's like two lines are fairly close together. But then when you enlarge it, you can sort of see the direction of the line. So I then put it in colour. And they monitored the clay at just inside the tunnel wall, about 500 millimetres. And they monitored it in two other places, and then finally they monitored it about 5 metres in from the tunnel wall. And you could see that the 5 metres virtually didn't move at all.
Oh.
So the heat never got in to more than 4 metres, say. But the one at 500 millimetres was clearly seasonal.
Okay.
And it would be, wouldn't it? Because the trains were coming in and heating the tunnel linings, and a certain amount of heat would get into 500 millimetres, but it didn't get to 5 metres. So you could see the seasonal effect of trains coming in on the heat of the tunnel walls.
Yes.
The clay did not spontaneously heat up. The clay was a consequence of the trains coming in and heating it.
Right. It's interesting to think about because, yes, the classical explanations of the clay, the earth absorbs energy, especially the clay. And as I said initially, they were marketed this as cold in the underground. After 130 years back, it's been increased. So people are saying that clay absorbed all the solar energy and it is now full. But when you talk about the seasonality changes, it's actually questioning. It's really fascinating to, this is where we should talk about how this is contradicting with the seasonality. Because as you said, the heat doesn't come spontaneously in the clay.
Well, it's interesting. With this paper, I've actually looked at other industries, and they look at, I'll say in broad terms, operational. So building industry, what's operational? Yeah, heating systems, things like that. But they look at the operational sources as one set of sources, and the seasonality sources as another. And so, for example, in a greenhouse, I'm talking about an ordinary greenhouse or an industrial greenhouse. So in an ordinary greenhouse, you put a heater in so it doesn't get too cold in the winter. In the summer, there's so much heat that it wouldn't matter if you left that heat on the heater because it's minimal effect compared to the heat of the solar gain. And the documentation that's been created for buildings and for greenhouses and the like, Sibsey and people like that, they clearly say that the dominant effect is solar gain.
Okay.
So they design for the dominant effect. They don't question it. Whereas the railway industry spend millions of pounds monitoring rails, which they know heat up through solar gain, and also mitigating the effects of solar gain but they don't accept how can the train. So, and they also then say the roofs and the sides and the glass are all we're thinking about for solar gain. How can the sun come down and hit the roof and the sides and the glass? Because sometimes it's coming at an angle, but it misses the wheels and it misses the track, but it hits the rails.
Right. That's
It's a total contradiction.
yes. Okay. Let's go to your idea. Let's go to your assumptions. It's not just assumptions. There are some historical evidences that you mentioned in your articles. I read it. So I have taken a couple of them. You can talk about more explaining that way. And one is so interesting about the Philadelphia. It's about the 100 trains in India.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you have mentioned about the 3M's test. Could you talk about that? Because I'm wondering, I'm from India, so I'm just wondering what kind of test, what exactly they did, and supports your assumptions.
India are way ahead of us.
Oh,
In India, they have flat roofs.
hmm.
And they can't walk on the flat roofs because they're too hot. So now they buy a pot of paint, which is called solar reflective paint, and they paint the roofs. And not only can they now walk on the roofs, the inside of their houses are more comfortable. So they've got old trains and they haven't got air conditioning. So they don't do anything but climb on the roof with a spray gun and spray the roof and reduce the temperatures by 15 degrees.
Oh, that's great.
Not a lot to it, really. They've proved it works. We haven't even sprayed the roofs, let alone dealt with the other pathways.
Let's talk about your idea, the evolvement of your idea, the theory. So you assume you write papers, you started spreading through articles, but did you meet any expert to pitch to make a change? Did it ever happen?
Did I engage any experts?
Yes, any experts are from the industry, railway industry, if anyone ready
No,
to take up your
the
idea?
industry are so fixed on that it's operational heat that they're not interested in anything I say. So they wouldn't advise me on what I'm trying to achieve.
And why
But
is that? Why TfL is hesitating to take your idea?
I've asked AI this actually, and they say it's probably not because of cognitive dissonance. It's probably because there's so much momentum that the whole of the industry has almost been brainwashed. You know, you go into the industry and they say, well, we're working on, making sure we don't overheat our trains, and this is the answer. And they go, yes, boss.
I got it.
And if they try, there were a few people that my ex-colleagues, one of them in particular was found out that he agreed with me, and he got his knuckles rapped big time. Because you mustn't agree with Calvin Barrows, because we know it all.
Right. So,
But I'm saying, it's taken me 18 years to put this story together. 95% plus of people do not know the way heat works, and they've never even tried to investigate it. And if I hadn't come across it by accident, because my wife kept on saying, I don't understand how this works, and she's not a scientist, she's just looking at it from a common sense point of view.
yeah.
And I go, right, if you don't understand, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I better find out. And I gradually found bits and pieces that put it all together. But probably the only person that really helped was the guy that told me about the fire, the bonfire. That's not true, actually,
Oh,
because my first thought was, and this was before I realised that the biggest problem was heating the outside of the trains, not the inside, that you put air conditioning in the trains and you only run it when you're outside. So you don't run it in the tunnel because you don't want to send the heat into the tunnel. That was a reasonably logical thing to think before you knew that actually the biggest problem was the outside of the trains heating the tunnel. But when I was in tube lines, I had about 20 people probably who I called my team, who were on side. And one guy says, I'm not sure about air conditioning. He said, I'd use passive measures. I'm going, what's that then? And he says, solar reflective paint and solar glass. I better Google that.
right.
Because I'd never heard of it.
Yes.
And that and another person who was the most unlikely person in the world that told me the only thing you can walk on with bare feet is grass.
As you previously mentioned about that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they are the few gems that I've got along the way from other people.
Nice. Now you can add my name as well by this podcast. Well, right. Let's go back to, not go back. Let's come to another point of view. The critics, the critical evaluation about your idea. So, as you already said, some engineers argue in the industry they will morely rely on the modeling that they previously have rather than go with the personal observation. So, what's your major contradiction with that?
Modelling, right.
Yes, the modeling.
Got you.
Yeah.
The problem with modelling
Yes.
is people rely on it too much.
Okay.
You can't design a model until you know the concept. So if you don't know how the world heats up, how can you design a model that takes that into account? And if you don't know that you've got to look at operational heat separately to seasonal heat, how can you design a model? It's just a load of rubbish. As we were talking earlier on, when I started with computers, which wasn't until I was probably in my 30s, late 30s.
Okay, I'm assuming the year would be 1960s or something?
No, a bit later than that. I was born 1950. It was...
Probably 1970s then.
Yeah, in the 80s.
80s, right.
And I used to have a thing called GIGO. Have you heard of GIGO?
Something called gabbing in...
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbaging in, garbaging out. What does it mean?
Well, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know what you're talking about, you design a model that gives you an answer, but the model's garbage and the model sends out some garbage.
I like the word gigo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1976, there was a big soiree in America.
Okay.
And there was a guy called William Kennedy,
Right.
who was the
Very familiar name.
Parsons Brinckerhoff design manager. And he was, that was the American, so he was the president of Parsons Brinckerhoff. I don't understand what president means because he's not the top man, but, he was highly regarded.
Yeah.
And they were working with government organisations and all sorts of organisations, train companies, and they developed a handbook which was about 1,500 pages long. In fact, I think there were 2 volumes and they were both about the same size.
Oh.
And I can't remember what the second volume was, but I was concentrating on the first volume. And I managed to, in fact, my wife found that because
Oh.
I never even thought it existed, so I wasn't looking for it. She wasn't looking for it, but she found it by accident. And I managed to get an electronic version, so I thought, what does it say about solar? So I just searched for solar.
Hmm.
And I got about 20 hits. And one of them was the Market Street line in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And I can't remember the exact wording, but basically it's saying, we have discovered the Market Street line gets hot because the trains go out in the sun
Oh.
and they go into the tunnel. Oh, 1976.
Oh.
And Parsons Brinkhoff were one of the consultants
Hmm.
that was engaged by TfL, and they didn't know the history of their company, but that they had found it out in. Because if I'd have known that then, I could have just done nothing more but said, have a read of this.
The current situation. Let's talk about why this idea matters now. So when we talk about these things, this all idea and the TfL's explanation and the underground, I think people have got an idea why it is hard now. But what we can do now, for example, there's two things I need to mention. One is 2001 Victoria Line incident. 600 people got out of the a train. In the middle of that is an incident, which where I
2001, did you say?
2001.
Yeah, I vaguely remember seeing that one.
Okay,
That,
you can
that
talk about
no,
that.
not seeing it personally, but seeing the
I mean, the
report about it.
experience reports.
Because they actually, I think, left them in the train too long, didn't they?
Hmm.
They didn't. They didn't
Something like
try and
that.
evacuate them, and they were getting really panicky. And this is the sort of things that are happening out on the main lines now with these stalled trains. So they've known about these problems, like on the main lines, for example. The first report I managed to find, which I'm sure is not the first report, of a stalled train on the main line was 2005. So they've had 20 years to work out a strategy for detraining safely. Because obviously you can't just take people out of a train and put them on a main line, because they'll be wandering all over the place. And they'll probably be a bit gaga anyway, because they've just spent 2 hours in a train that's too hot. So they've had 20 years to sort out a strategy, and they still operate chaos every time a stalled train happens. And so, yeah,
Got it.
what I would say is, where's the most dangerous place to be in a stalled train?
Oh,
Not in a station,
the train,
in a
traveling train.
not in a train in a station, but in a train in a tunnel.
That's dangerous.
Now,
For
so
sure.
the Elizabeth line is even worse. The Elizabeth line, it's got platform edge doors or screens right up to the ceiling. So literally any heat in the tunnel can't get into the station, except when the train doors are open, or the platform edge doors are open. And if the train is in the station, but it's not aligned with the doors, then the doors won't open.
Oh,
So they could be stuck in a station in a stalled train, but not and see where they need to escape to, but can't escape there. And you know, if the power goes, have they got a mechanical way of opening those doors? Well, even if they have, they probably can't open the train doors.
Mm.
And if they weren't aligned properly and they can't get the key in, if there was a key, into the train door,
And
they're stuck in it.
Yeah, they're locked in it.
And the thing is that we used to have slam doors like they have in India, still have in India.
Yes,
We used not to have air conditioning.
Yeah.
We used to have opening windows. And now we've, in effect, constrained the passengers by sealed windows and sealed doors. And they aren't in control of the situation. They can't escape like they used to be able to escape. And they can't ventilate like they used to be able to ventilate.
Yeah.
So that's why it's getting more urgent, because the whole of the rail industry has changed. That means to say that you have to be controlled by the staff rather than in control yourself.
Exactly. The reason I put this question is because the safety, the first place, and comfort is the second, and that is why might some incident can happen in the future. That's why we are trying to discuss how to stop these kind of hazards. Well, the next question.
Let me just answer that one.
Yeah.
I've said for years, the reason I haven't stopped is because there was a situation. I was doing a signalling course, and the guy said there was a situation where something could happen, and I can't remember the detail, but basically something could happen to the train and something could happen to signal. And this will be microseconds and this will be milliseconds. But it doesn't really matter because it's never going to happen in that slot there. Now, the chances of that happening are probably millions to one. So they said, okay, it's not a problem. You know, one day it happened.
Oh,
And there was a massive crash.
okay.
And because of it, they changed the whole signalling system. Now, TfL in the summer get loads of ambulances because they are aware that they might need to get some people to hospital. In the winter, they don't bother.
Oh,
So, actually, if you look at all the reports, they always say in the summer, but they don't go in the summer. Why is it in the summer? Oh, why do we have to carry a bottle of water with us in the summer and not in the winter? All these things are contradictions. And so I've always said the reason I carry on is because I have now raised something that no one is taking on board. And so I have an obligation to keep the message going out, because otherwise, when the situation happens and the two align,
exactly.
so a serious stalled train when it's 40 degrees down there, people are going to die.
Yes, yes. That's a
And I don't want to be the one that stopped telling people that that was going to happen.
yeah, true. So another question, I mean, going to be the final questions of the segment. What do you think about the Bun Hill 2 project by TfL?
Bund Hill.
Yeah,
Well, Bund Hill.
because you have criticized in your articles about that.
The first thing is about Bund Hill is that they think that the heat in the tunnel is the right sort of heat. Now, talking about timing, when are you going to get most heat in the tunnel? It's funny, people have a great deal of difficulty with that answer.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Yes.
If I ask people when does the tube overheat, they go, oh, at night, or in the mornings, or something like that. No,
Definitely summer.
in the summer. Right. So, what are you going to do to make use of that heat in the summer when everyone's trying to get cool. It's the wrong timing.
Yes.
Okay? So that's the first point. The second point is, and I talked to someone who'd actually visited this, or I wrote to someone who'd actually visited it and done a report on it. And I made some comment about heat or something. And he goes, yeah, I did notice that when I was there. I can't remember exactly what it was. And it's like, duh. Anyway, so just in case there wasn't enough heat, they put a combined heat and power thing in. And they also put, what do you call them? Air conditioning the wrong way. Heat source pump.
Okay.
Heat source pump. And I go, so they're going to say that this system is ecologically friendly, but when it goes wrong, because they haven't got enough heat in the winter, they're going to turn on a combined heat and power and a heat pump.
The heat pump.
Yeah. Why do they need a heat pump and a combined heat and power engine when they reckon they got heat down in the tunnel? Because it's the wrong time of year. You need the heat in the winter when the tunnel's cold. And if you walk up escalators on a winter's night, and the wind's blowing a bit, you get blasted with cold air.
Yes, definitely. It will be so cold if I'm going with the accelerator in the winter time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there was one reporter, Rachel someone, can't remember the name off the top of my head, who did a test. Everyone else was doing tests on trains when it was hot. She did the test on trains in the middle of winter. And she said it was cold. Really? Everyone says. So I say, one of the answers I get when I say, when does the tube get hot? It's hot all the time. No, it's not. Because people go in there in the winter with their winter coats on and their scarves. And they don't actually find it's too hot that they need to take their winter clothes off.
What if your idea be falsified?
Falls apart?
Yeah. I mean, what if your idea get falsified? If your own theory get disproved? In the sense, what's your take on that?
I would love someone to challenge me.
Great.
I would really love someone to challenge me. Can you see any flaws in it?
No, I couldn't. I didn't get any falsify or making disprove. The only thing we know is the TfL has an explanation, and your idea has its own weightage. So I don't think someone will come and disprove you. Only thing they can do is to take your idea and practically test the hypothesis. That's what all scientists and designers has to do. And
yes, I mean, the thing is to find someone who's prepared to engage with it. But
got it.
I would learn something if someone challenged me. But what was interesting...
Yeah, it's about the learning. That's
what's
science.
interesting is people have challenged me before. And I'm never the one to stop. They always give up. Because...
I think it's a very good thing because...
they can't argue the point.
Yes, even though if someone came and argued, it's about the learning, about this tunneling system and the science itself growing, about the system and engineering, everything goes up. Something is open the door. If we simply didn't do the critics, that's the wrong thing to do in this.
So what I should share with you is that the Office of Road and Rail has decided that their expert is okay by saying that it's operational heat, despite the fact that I've made a very good argument that it's not operational heat. But as I said, they're all fixated on this because that's what the industry thinks. But I have sent my various papers out to other organisations, and one of the organisations that I sent it out to is the London Assembly Transport Committee. And the London Assembly Transport Committee have meetings with the mayor. Now, the mayor at the moment doesn't realise that he's having the wool pulled over his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But the lady that's the chair of that committee has really got it. She's really on side with me.
Oh.
And I'm going to send her this paper shortly and say, you need to test that out on your colleagues, and then you need to test it out on the mayor.
Okay.
Whether she will or not,
Yeah, we
I
didn't know.
wait and see.
But we can just.
But she's
send
got a
it in.
technical advisor as well who's very much on side.
Right. I think we came to a final aspect of this episode. And if you want to make your solutions, let's talk about the final solutions about this whole thing. If you could summarize what are the solutions that you are saying to this tunneling and hot tunnel, so what would it be?
The solution to actually stopping the tube getting hot. Right, so it's deal with the track. So plastic sleepers, green track,
Yeah,
painting rails,
painting
and
rails.
don't ever use paint that's not solar reflective, or even better, passive daytime radiative cooling spec. Coat the whole of the train that the sun can see in passive daytime radiative cooling, and make sure the glass is the best glass you can get. So actually that's the point, that they did take on board some of my advice, probably, but they didn't admit it, when they put foil and film, foil on the roof and film on the windows of Central Line trains. And they said that gave a 4-degree improvement in interior temperatures. But it didn't make any difference to the tunnel. Well, it wouldn't do, would it? Because they didn't deal with the most heat absorbent materials, i.e. the undercarriage. They didn't deal with the track, which at that time I hadn't brought up. That was something that came more recently. But the whole point is that in order to stop the heat going in, you've got to deal with every pathway that you've got to identify them first, which I believe I have, and then you've got to deal with every pathway. And that is my next port of call, is that the people who deal with the design are the Rail Standards and Safety and Standards Board, RSSB, and they are doing a document at the moment, and I got a bit of a mouthful from one of their guys who said, we don't take any notice of the public, despite the fact that I'd actually helped write one of their previous solar gain documents. And, we're going to go down the route we're going to go down, which is we're only going to put it on the roof of the train.
Nice.
So you're going to investigate a quarter of the story.
Right.
And you're going to come out with a document that only addresses a quarter of the story.
Right. So, and this question is something personally, because I ask this question to everyone I meet. Do you have any recommendation of book by the tunnel system? If people want to really learn about why the London Underground tunnel is so hot, or this kind of aspects, do you recommend any book for them?
I was invited by someone to write a book, and they would help.
Write a book.
They would
That's
help
lovely.
me. But I thought, well, TfL don't even read my documents I send them, so what's the point of writing a book? There might be a point of writing a book when eventually it becomes a history book about the fight I had to get my message across.
And we are going to push the message as much as we are possible. If someone from the TfL is watching this video, what's the message to them?
Please investigate the rules of thermodynamics and also do the simple monitoring that I've done to prove that your statement that the heat is gained in the tunnels by the brakes is not a true fact. The heat is created outside the tunnels. And then move on from there. Because you'll then understand that the message I'm giving you is fact, because I've done the monitoring myself and I'm not lying about it.
Right. Any messages or any thoughts to public?
The public, please don't keep going on about air conditioning. It's not the answer. It's not the silver bullet. You have to understand that air conditioning is only going to deal with one aspect of it, and that is only going to benefit you when you're outside the tunnel.
What do you think the future direction of the research and development goes on this?
I think I was actually I was invited to comment. I can't remember exactly the words they used, but basically someone, an MSc student in UCL, wanted to do a thesis on cooling the tube. And I had an email from a professor there who said, would you be prepared to have a chat with this particular student so that she can do a bit of research about what you think. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. They found out about my work. Actually, they hadn't. They found out about my name, but they hadn't read my work. But they had 6 other people all being interviewed. And most of the answers were the accepted explanation.
Oh.
There was nothing new coming out of it. And they went with those people as well. But they said to me, would you be prepared? And I said yes. And so I had the meeting with the student, and she asked various questions. And I actually resisted because I thought, I'm wasting my time here, because she was talking about doing all sorts of unfeasible things to solve the problem. And I thought, okay, if I say I'll go ahead, then I'm in a weak position because it makes it sound like I want to be in the frame. But actually, I don't want to be in the frame because I don't think I'm going to be able to contribute. So anyway, she emailed me and said, oh, I've got free patch on Friday. Can we have our meeting then? I go, okay. And if it doesn't work out, I can go, well, I didn't think it was going to work out. Can we stop there? Anyway, so she asked me, I can't remember what the question was. And I said, well, I don't think I can really answer that because I'm on a completely different page to you. She said, oh, what's that then? So I gave her a bit of a short spiel about it. She said, now that's really interesting, she said. And then she started asking me loads of questions about my hypothesis. And anyway, a week later, I got a note from the professor. She said, we'd really like to have a chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a chat with the student there. The student didn't say very much. And she said, well, we're doing a bit of research on it. Would you like to join the team? This is my opportunity to have a bit of extra help here to get my message across. And then we did quite a bit of work. I got some graphs for why climate change wasn't going to make any difference. And then she invited 2 climate change proponents along and I'm going, what the heck are we doing here? You're not listening to me. What's the point of me being on this committee? Anyway, and eventually TfL decided they weren't going to give them any data, so it came to a bit of a stop. But then I started looking at the forerunner to passive daytime radiative cooling, which is the cooling via emission.
Cooling via emission.
Make sure it emits from the surface object.
Oh, okay.
And one of the assistant professors, or whatever they called him, said I was talking a load of nonsense. And he came up with something as stupid as the clay spontaneously heats. I think he said it was groundwater, that's right. And I'm thinking, what on earth am I? Here's a professor that's trying to tell me black is white. So what was the question? I've forgotten what the question was.
I mean, the question was about, I think I just said about the future directions. That's it.
Yeah, so the future is that I don't know really, because there's got to be enough people that eventually say,
this hypothesis, yeah.
do you know, it might be worth looking at, see if there's anything that's right about what he says.
That's it.
But will that ever happen? I'm 76 now.
Yeah.
Am I going to be alive when it happens? Who knows?
Oh my God, it's the idea that
It's taken me 20 years already. Nearly 20 years already. And another 20 years I might not be around. And another 10 I might not be in a state to do anything about it anyway.
Great.
But I've tried.
I really love this conversation with you, because I never had a chat with a person who, especially on engineering and the physics, talking about the thermodynamics. So I think it's a very good message to the people who are watching, and I think I have helped this. How to say? Thank you. I don't know how to conclude it. Thank you, Mr. Calvin, to join with us, and it's very honor to and a pleasure to talk with you about these things. And I really enjoy the conversation. Any thoughts about this podcast?
I'm interested to see how it turns out.
No, I'm just asking.
I hope it's as good as I think it's going to be.
Yes, but I'm asking how do you feel like being in this?
I always enjoy
Right.
talking to people about it, because I never know what might come of it. Because, I've been a bit of a lone voice. It's been a lonely journey. And it's nice to have someone that's really interested. I mean, lots of people have been really interested. They haven't had your sort of understanding of it, perhaps, but they've got it. But all I'm hoping one day is I'll talk to someone who goes, do you know, I'm in the business. I see exactly what you say, and I'm going to do something about it.
Right. That's great. So I think, and my goal is just simply putting this idea to make it to the public. And I think that's the major role for a science communicator. And I'm happy that I'm being a part of it. And thanks to people who are listening to this end of this podcast. And hope you all learned about why the London Underground tunnel is hot, and different aspects from Mr. Calvin. And I think People have to talk about this, especially in the summertime. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you. Cool.